This is my investigative report for COM 385, and I'm talking about corporal punishment. And we're going to talk about it in terms of corporal punishment inside the school instead of a business. I am sitting here interviewing Jake Johnson on his outlook of corporal punishment and in terms of if it was his child being punished for this or any other one's child. So, Jake, do you know corporal punishment is like a physical kind of punishment? So we're going to talk about it. If your child was hitting someone at school or breaking the school rules, how would you feel if your child was taken into the principal's office and paddled for this action?
I definitely, for things like, starting fights, things like that, hitting another child, instigating certain things, I would definitely not have a problem with school administrators or teachers, using that sort of punishment on my child.
So a lot of big talk about corporal punishment is more on the line of how far is that line, and that line as far as the leftovers, pretty much, of what happened during the punishment, as far as bruising or redness to the skin or just any kind of physical pain to them or mental pain, anything like that. How are you going to deal with your child that was bruised or the redding lasted more than a couple hours from that paddling?
Well, I know that there are definitely lines that need to be set and not crossed, but I think this is what is important for school administrators and policy makers for that school system to take into account. And I know that most school systems do this, but having a policy in place that and making that accessible to parents and teachers and things like that. But what outlines the a student's behavior and the punishment for that behavior. I don't agree with a child being punished to that extent for just anything. So I would like to know what he's being punished for if that does take place.
Okay, and as far as like for the administrative end of it, what do you think they can do to maybe promote this kind of discipline? Because a lot of people are saying that the discipline now is not what it used to be, 20 years ago when you did paddle, and children are acting different in and outside of the school. So what is something that the administration can do to promote this? Because parents are not allowing the administrative supporters of this to paddle their child, and so they're moving to different school systems, they're moving schools, they're moving areas because they don't believe in paddling or physical punishment to their child.
Well, as you stated earlier, I think that it does carry over into other aspects of the child's life and even into adulthood. So that's, to me, one positive side of it. It's hard to relay your message to somebody else and persuade your message and your way of thinking to somebody else. So that's definitely a challenge that administrators will have to really put a lot of thought into. But I really don't necessarily have a very good answer for how they can approach that.
Okay, so what would you do as far as do you believe that the physical abuse is going to be a mental abuse in the future? A lot of controversy with this punishment is they think it's not just a physical abuse, but a mental abuse in the child's future.
Well, I know when I was growing up, and I would imagine that it's still this way now, I didn't get a lot of paddlings when I was in school, but I did get a few, and I know that they required witnesses and things like that. So it kind of protects themselves from, being, someone claiming excessive force or something like that. So
as far as physical abuse, you don't think, or as far as, mental abuse, you don't think that it's mentally going to affect the child at all?
I don't think that it'll mentally affect the child.
What if
I think
child
a child
has
will claim that in a lot of instances. If a child's not getting their way, a lot of times they'll try to claim
how do you feel about children that have a mental disability already before you're physically punishing this child?
Well, that goes back into your school administrators, making certain policy and making that available to parents and teachers and things like that. A student with a disability should be outlined in that. And
how do you draw the line between someone that has a mental disability and a child that is just troubled at home? They're creating problems inside of school, and how do you separate those two from one another?
Having a diagnosis maybe from a medical doctor or something like that. Having medical personnel involved with that decision will definitely help, and it'll also determine a lot of your policy and stuff as far as if a person has this disability, should they be punished in the same way as somebody else?
All right. What is your outlook on, if we're going into now mental things with a doctor, how are we feeling about, do you think that will affect the school system, the number of students that are attending the school, and if that school board will be able to make it through and successfully be a school, because a lot of people will transfer out of them as soon as you tell them you do believe in paddlings.
And those are definitely issues that have to be well planned out. This can't be a knee-jerk reaction by superintendents or principals or just any type of school administrator. It has to be a well thought out process. It takes years to plan. And you have to look at things like your demographics for your school, the types of parents that send their kids to school at in your city, and also the type of students. Do you have a large population with disabilities? Do you have a large population with troubled kids who do typically cause problems and cause trouble in the classroom?
All right. Well, there you have it. That is my investigative report on corporal punishment. Again, I'm interviewing Jake Johnson, and see you later.